Lakers win the first NBA Cup. They are champions.
LeBron James, the MVP.
Now 2-9 in their last 11 games.
And Phoenix is coming here to beat the Lakers for the first time this season.
The Lakers in trouble. The Lakers in serious trouble.
We just suck right now.
Is this fixable, what we're seeing?
Hell no.
I'm tired of people living and dying with every single game we play.
LeBron's doing his thing. AD's been playing great, and they're still losing. We're worried about old LeBron, the young guys sticking up the joint.
We're almost to the halfway point of the 2023-2024 NBA regular season, and the Los Angeles Lakers are sitting at just 19-20. If you would have told anybody that just a month ago when the Lakers were winning the inaugural NBA Cup, it would have certainly taken them by surprise. After the Lakers defeated the New Orleans Pelicans in the semifinals of the NBA in-season tournament, they were 14-19, and since then have went just 5-11 in their last 16 games. Prior to last night, when they were blown out by a struggling Suns team at home, they had won 2 in a row versus a red-hot Clippers team and a Raptors team who has looked better than normal since acquiring Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. But it doesn't change the fact that while one team in LA is the hottest team in the NBA over the past month, another is arguably one of the coldest. At first, everyone kind of convinced themselves the Lakers were just having an in-season tournament hangover, similar to the Indiana Pacers, which made sense at the time, as they went 2-6 in their 8 games following the in-season tournament. In that same 6-game span, the Pacers would also go 2-6. So it really did just seem like an in-season tournament hangover. Players were tired. They had never competed like this before. This early in the season, both teams would get back on track. And while that proved to be true for the Indiana Pacers, who would proceed to then go 9-1 following that 2-6 stretch, but the Lakers wouldn't really recover, going 3-5 in their next 8 games. Like I said earlier, they did beat a Clippers team who has been the hottest team in the NBA over the past month. However, if you want to split hairs, Kawhi Leonard was on a minutes restriction due to a back-to-back, and he didn't play much of clutch time. And when it comes to the Raptors win, think what you want about the fouling down the stretch. It was super controversial, but I think either way, the Raptors were the better team in that game, and the Lakers snuck out a win. Regardless, I feel like we're getting to that point in the NBA season where the Lakers are quickly becoming desperate. This was a team that completely retooled itself at the trade deadline last year and became one of the hottest teams in the NBA in March and April heading into the playoffs, which they would end up riding that momentum all the way to the Western Conference Finals as the 7th seed. The story of the Lakers this year has been one of a poor offense and, to start, a pretty good defense that has really lapsed over this 14-15 game rough stretch, as they now rank 12th in the NBA in defensive rating, 23rd in offense, and 20th in net rating, which somehow actually puts them behind last year's pace pre-trade deadline, as they were 19th in offense, 12th in defense, and 16th in net. Now, obviously, we're talking about 39 games, not a full NBA season. The question has to be asked, what is different about this Los Angeles Lakers team versus that team post-trade deadline last year, who was one of the best teams in the NBA? When it comes to their 2 superstars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, nothing has really changed compared to last year. Sure, LeBron is down a tiny bit in scoring and maybe some other counting stats, but both players are still playing on an all-NBA level, which is pretty remarkable to say about a 39-year-old. It seems that everybody else on this roster is having a down season compared to that second half of last year. Part of this could just be that the Lakers got hot at the right time last year and that players were playing almost elevated compared to what they actually were, which we'll dive deeper into later in this video. However, I don't really think we could have expected this at the same time. For example, Exhibit A to me is Austin Reeves. I'm not saying he's had an awful season, but last season, according to dunksandthrees.com, he had a true shooting percentage of 70.1%, which is absolutely incredible for a guard. And according to dunksandthrees.com as well, it's in the 97th percentile across the entire NBA, which includes big men who are getting a majority of high percentage shots near the rim. Austin has seen his three-point attempts go up 1.2 a game this season, and his percentage completely drop off a cliff. He was shooting 39.8% from 3, which is borderline elite, and is now shooting below league average at 34.3%. which according to basketballreference.com, league average this season is 36.5. But even from inside the arc, his shots aren't falling either. Last season, he shot 63% from 2. This season, he's shooting 58%. And then although not known as a defender, he's an offensive player. On the defensive end, he has the worst defensive rating on the team by anybody that plays significant minutes. According to dunksandthrees.com, this may be too advanced of a metric for most fans, but Austin Reaves' estimated plus minus on defense is minus 3.2, which ranks in the first percentile. And for reference, he was in the 62nd percentile last year with a plus 0.00 defensive EPM. Again, not to go into it too much, but EPM is an advanced metric that's highly respected in the analytics basketball world. And there could be other reasons for that number, but I thought it was too interesting and too much of a discrepancy to not include in this video. But I think the biggest thing with Austin Reaves, he could obviously get hot and turn this whole season around. However, I think the most disappointing thing so far is how hyped he was by the national media in the summer, and more specifically during Team USA. I remember guys like Bill Simmons talking about how Austin Reaves was making almost a mini superstar leap. Maybe superstar is too strong of a word, but the way he was being talked about was as if he was the third borderline star piece alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron. The Lakers desperately need 2022-2023 Austin Reaves to come back at some point this season. Taurean Prince also looked like a very smart signing. I'm a Wolves fan. He played for the Wolves last year. I like Taurean Prince. Lakers fans were excited to get him this offseason, but he also hasn't been very good for them. He's actually been able to shoot pretty well from 3 this year on a good amount of attempts per game, but his defense has also been very poor. He's actually second on the team in the lowest defensive rating for guys that play significant minutes, just right above Austin Reaves. Then you have a guy like Cam Reddish, who has actually been good on the defensive end this season, but is borderline unplayable on the offensive end. When it comes to a guy like D'Angelo Russell, I actually think he's having a pretty good season. His efficiency is just a tad down from post-trade deadline D'Angelo Russell last season, but overall from last season to this season, he's very much the same player, and I think he's somebody that the Lakers really need to initiate offense, especially when LeBron isn't on the court. Jared Vanderbilt's a guy that I think has been incredibly disappointing for the Lakers this year. This was about a year, maybe 2 years ago, considered one of the best defenders in the NBA by advanced metrics, especially on the perimeter. His defense hasn't necessarily been as good as in a year or two ago. However, his offense is literally so bad. I don't really even know how to describe it. We all know offense has never been Vando's thing, but this is a whole new low. He's only played in 16 games this year, so I will say it is a small sample size. However, the dude is shooting 36% from the field on just 3 field goal attempts per game, averaging 2.5 points per game, whereas he was averaging 7.2 post-trade deadline last year. I feel for Darvin Ham on this one, because when you put him out on the court, especially with Anthony Davis on the court, you may be looking to be dominant on defense, but you're giving up so much on the offensive end, and you're already a poor offensive team. It just feels like with this Lakers team, they are full of role players that are just really good at one thing and awful at the other, which almost creates this like schizophrenic or bipolar identity with different units on the court. For example, Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt, defensive players, horrendous, unplayable on the offensive end. D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reaves, above average offensive players, not unplayable on the defensive end, but they're not good defenders. And another player I really want to mention was Rui Hachimura. This was a guy who had an incredible playoffs. The Lakers made a really nice move trading for him in January of last season, giving up Kendrick Nunn and just 3 second-round picks. And for the most part, I don't really have any gripes for Rui. I think he's a good role player on a team like the Lakers. I know he's out with a calf injury right now, but hopefully he can get back on the court soon. And then you have some other guys on this roster that I'm just not really sure what to do with, and Christian Wood, Max Christie, Jackson Hayes, even Jalen Hood-Schifino, their first-round pick this season, who probably should be playing in the G League right now. We all know that the NBA season can change in 2 weeks, and maybe in 3 we're talking about how the Lakers have been the hottest team in January, but as of now, it looks like they're going to be active again at the trade deadline. Darvin Ham has been on the hot seat for the past couple weeks, and I'm not really going to speak too much on that, just because I have no idea. I'm assuming he's going to be fired if things don't turn around in the next 2 weeks, but at the same time, this was a guy that everyone was praising when the Lakers made the Western Conference Finals last season. When it comes to the trade deadline, I really don't think the Lakers should trade for Zach LaVine or even DeJounte Murray. I know that won't be the popular sentiment. Most people are begging for change, but I just don't see either of these guys being worth worth what you're going to have to trade for them. You're probably due for some positive regression in the second half of the season, especially from a guy like Austin Reeves. And maybe you can make a minor deal or find someone on the buyout market that can come in off the bench and provide a spark, especially on offense. And we have proof this team can get hot at the right time and make a run. I do think they're somewhat missing Dennis Schroeder from last season, someone to come in off the bench as a backup point guard and run the offense when things get stagnant. But at the end of the day, what would you even offer for Zach LaVine? I know they have some picks that they can offer, but do you really want to mortgage your future for a guy like LaVine? I guess I'm just not persuaded he would make the kind of difference people seem to claim he would. Plus, for all we know, Bronny continues to ascend through the draft boards, and all of a sudden LeBron declines his player option this offseason and goes wherever Bronny gets drafted. I know it's not the sexy move to make, but I really think the Lakers just need to stand pat at the trade deadline. At the very most, like I said earlier, make a small move. The only way I see DeJounte Murray potentially being worth it is if you get rid of D'Lo. The Hawks aren't taking D'Lo back. There's no way. Plus, the market seems to have no idea what DeJounte is worth. I've seen people throwing out crazy amounts of firsts. Then I've seen others say the Hawks aren't getting more than 50% of what they paid for him. I think the scariest thing for the Lakers, and honestly for the Warriors and the Suns too, is that right now you have 4 teams fighting for 3 play-in spots. Not playoff spots, play-in spots. And those 4 teams are the 3 I just mentioned and the Houston Rockets. Plus, the Utah Jazz are 11-4 in their last 15 games and are 18-20. I'm not buying it yet, but it's something to monitor. Let's just say the Lakers are damn lucky that Ja Morant just randomly had this shoulder injury nobody knew about and is out for the season, because I was willing to bet on the Grizzlies making the playoffs. And honestly, the answer may just lie in letting some of these guys like Max Christie and Christian Wood get more run. I know a lot of people have been upset with Darvin Ham with all these different starting lineup rotations and everything happening from night to night, but this team is so bizarre right now that I really don't blame him for it that much. Hopefully they can find some type of continuity, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were to get back in their groove, rattling off 4 or 5 in a row here. January is an essential month for them. They only leave California 3 times and they don't play a back-to-back until the end of the month. In order to consider this a successful month, I would say they probably need to be 5 games above 500 by the end of the month. There's only 10 games left in January, and they're 2-3 to start the month, which means they're gonna have to finish 8-2 or 7-3. The Western Conference is brutal this season, and while I'm not particularly a Lakers fan, I really do appreciate LeBron James, as we all do. To be doing this at 39 years old and to have the potential to miss the playoffs would be a damn shame. So for that sole reason, I'm hoping the Lakers figure it out. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy the video I just made on the Trae Young problem explained. You can watch that right here. If you enjoy timely NBA content, you're in the right place. I try to upload multiple times a week. I also want to say thank you so much for the support over the past couple of videos. The channel has been growing exponentially, and it just motivates me to continually make better and better videos for you guys. I'm just a fan of the game of basketball like all of you. So as always, if you disagreed with something, put it in the comments. I'd love to respond to you. Tell me why I'm wrong. I also will admit when I do think I'm wrong or if I mess something up. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you on the hard.